I learned very quickly which parking lots were safe after midnight. Walmart on Jefferson stayed lit all night, cameras blinking like tired eyes above the entrance. The security guard did his rounds every 40 minutes, never bothered me, as long as I didn't make trouble. McDonald's across the street shut off their Wi-Fi at 11:30 p.m. sharp, which I discovered the hard way on a Thursday evening, December 14th, when my phone died mid-email. Details like that become important when your address is a 2012 Toyota Camry. Mine still smells faintly of peppermint gum and old leather. I keep things neat. 2 blankets folded in the back seat. A plastic container with socks, underwear, a spare shirt. Another with canned soup, crackers, a jar of peanut butter. $3.49 from Target. Still half full. Order matters. When everything else falls apart, you hold on to small systems. That morning, January 6, 2025, I woke up at exactly 5:52 a.m. My back was stiff, neck worse. Condensation had gathered along the inside of the windows, turning the world outside into a blurred watercolor of gray sky and flickering streetlights. For a moment, just a moment, I forgot where I was. I thought I was home. The old house on Maple Ridge Drive. The one with the creaky second step on the staircase and the kitchen window that never quite closed in winter. I could almost hear Margaret moving around in the kitchen, the soft clink of her coffee mug against the counter. Then I tried to stretch my legs, and my knee hit the steering wheel. Reality has a way of introducing itself without ceremony. I sat there for a while, breathing slowly, watching my breath fog up the glass. Outside, a delivery truck idled, its engine rumbling low like distant thunder. Someone slammed a car door. Life, normal life, already in motion. I reached for my phone. 6:03 a.m. No messages. That part used to sting. Now it just registered, like checking the weather. I unlocked the screen and opened my banking app out of habit. Balance: $312.47. I stared at that number longer than I should have. There was a time, not even 3 years ago, when I moved amounts like $50,000 with a phone call, when my signature on a document meant something, when my children looked at me not as a problem to be solved, but as a man who had built something solid. Funny how quickly value changes. Temporary, my son had said. It's just for a few weeks, Dad, my daughter added, standing behind him with her arms crossed like she was cold, though it was late August and 90 degrees outside. That was September 2nd, 2024. I remember the date because that's the day I handed over the last of it. $87,000 wired at 2:14 p.m.to an account ending in 4431. I still have the confirmation email. I reread it sometimes, like a man revisiting the exact moment he stepped off a cliff. You'll be more comfortable this way, they told me. They were right. A car, I've learned, is very simple. There's no room for illusions in something this small. If you believe older voices still matter, support this channel with a like and a subscription. Margaret died on February 11th, 2022. 2:40 in the morning.st. Vincent's Hospital, room 314. I remember the exact time because the nurse adjusted the blinds just after. A thin line of winter light slipped into the room like it didn't belong there. 43 years of marriage reduced to a quiet machine shutting off and a clipboard with signatures. I drove home alone that morning. The house felt unfinished without her. Not empty, unfinished. Like someone had paused a conversation mid-sentence and never came back to it. For the first few weeks, the kids were attentive. Of course they were. Dad, you shouldn't be alone right now, my daughter Lisa said on February 18th, sitting at my kitchen table, stirring coffee she didn't drink. It's not good for you. My son Daniel nodded. We can help manage things. Bills, maintenance, you don't need that stress. Stress. I had been managing that house, that life, those finances for decades. But grief has a way of making even simple things feel heavier. So I didn't argue. That was my first mistake. It started small. Let's just add me to your checking account, Daniel suggested in March. In case something happens. Emergencies. In case I die? I asked. He smiled. Don't be dramatic, Dad. By April 3rd, 2022, his name was on the account. By June, Lisa had access to. Just temporary, she said, tapping her manicured nails on her phone. Until things settle. Things never settle. They shift. Slowly. Quietly. By July, I wasn't paying the bills anymore. They were. At least that's what they said. You missed the electricity payment last month. Lisa told me one afternoon, holding up a printed statement. I did not, I said. Well, it's overdue, she replied, already typing something in her phone. Don't worry, I'll take care of it. Later, I found the receipt, paid twice, from my account. That was the second mistake. Not asking questions when the numbers didn't add up. Grief makes you tired. Tired people let things slide. Then came the conversations about the house. It started around October. Dad, this place is too big for you, Daniel said, standing in the living room, hands on his hips like he was inspecting a property he already owned. 4 bedrooms? It doesn't make sense. This is my home, I said. Exactly, Lisa added quickly. And we want to protect it. Property taxes alone are what, $9,800 a year now? $9,742, to be exact. I had paid them every year since 2009. I can afford it, I said. They exchanged a look. That look, I would come to recognize it later. The silent agreement that I was no longer part of the decision. You can, Dad, Daniel said slowly. But should you? That's how they do it. They don't push. Not at first. They suggest. Reframe. Plant seeds. By November, they had numbers. Printed charts. Market comparisons. Interest rates circled in red ink. Listen, Lisa said on November 22nd, sliding a folder across the table. We spoke to a realtor. Conservative estimate, $720,000. The number sat there between us like bait. You sell now, Daniel added. You downsize, invest the difference. You could be earning instead of just sitting. Sitting. 40 years of work, reduced to sitting. And where'd I go? I asked. You stay with us for a while, Lisa said quickly. Just until we find you something better. Temporary. That word again. I should have heard it for what it was. On December 15th, 2022, I signed the listing agreement. On January 28th, 2023, the house sold for $745,000. After fees, taxes, and closing costs, $682,114.63 hit my account on February 3rd at 11:17 a.m. I remember staring at that number. It felt like a lifetime compressed into a single line of digits. Don't worry, Dad, Daniel said that evening, pouring himself a drink in my kitchen, his confidence already expanding into the space. We'll make this work for you. And I believed him. That was the third mistake, the most expensive one. I moved into Lisa's house on February 5th, 2023, Sunday. Cold morning. I remember because the driveway still had a thin crust of ice, and Daniel nearly slipped carrying in my second suitcase. He laughed it off, but something about that moment stayed with me. How quickly a man becomes a guest in someone else's space. Make yourself at home, Dad, Lisa said, gesturing toward the small bedroom at the end of the hallway. It used to be an office. I could tell by the indentations on the carpet where a desk had stood. They'd cleared it out for me, left a narrow bed, a nightstand, and a lamp with a crooked shade. Temporary. I set my things down carefully. Folded shirts in the drawer. Margaret's photo on the nightstand. The small routines again. Always the small routines. At first, they were kind. Dinner at 6. Lisa cooked pasta, roasted chicken. Things with too much garlic, but I didn't complain. Daniel talked about opportunities, investments, market timing. Words that sounded impressive and meant very little when you looked too closely. You don't want your money just sitting there, Dad, he said one evening, February 12th. Inflation alone is eating it alive. I've managed fine so far, I replied. That was before, he said, smiling. Different world now. Different world. By March, the conversations had shifted. Let's move the funds into something more efficient, Lisa suggested, sitting beside me with her laptop open. Just temporarily. Higher yield, better liquidity. Numbers flashed across the screen. Graphs climbing upward in reassuring blue lines. How much? I asked. She hesitated, just for a second. Well, to make it worthwhile, we need at least $300,000. At least. I looked at Daniel. He nodded. It's safe. We've done this before. All right, I said finally. But I want everything documented. Of course, Lisa smiled. The transfer went through on March 18th, 2023. $300,000.10:42 a.m. I kept the confirmation email. I always keep the confirmations. After that, things became deficient. Bills? Handled. Groceries? Don't worry about it, Dad. My bank app? Checked less and less. There's a strange comfort in letting go of responsibility, until you realize you've also let go of control. By June, the house felt different, quieter, in a way that wasn't peaceful. Conversations stopped when I entered rooms. Doors closed more often. Work calls, Lisa would say. Daniel stopped explaining things altogether. Just trust us, became his favorite phrase. Trust. It's a currency you don't realize you're spending until it's gone. The first real crack came on July 9th. I was looking for my insurance papers, old habit keeping everything organized. I opened the drawer in the hallway where Lisa kept documents, and I saw my name. Not unusual. What was unusual was the number next to it. Loan agreement, $180,000. My signature sat at the bottom of the page. Only I didn't remember signing it. I stood there for a long time, staring at the paper. The ink looked real. The date, May 27th, 2023, meant nothing to me. Looking for something? Lisa's voice came from behind me. I turned slowly. What is this? She glanced at the document, then back at me. No panic, just mild irritation. Oh, it's just a restructuring thing. Daniel explained it to you. No, I said. He didn't. A pause, then a sigh. Dad, we talked about this. You said it was fine. I would remember signing a $180,000 loan. You did agree, she said sharper now. Maybe you just don't recall the details. There it was, subtle, clean. The suggestion that the problem wasn't the paper. It was me. Daniel stepped into the hallway then, drawn by the tension. What's going on? Your father is confused about the loan, Lisa said. Confused. I looked at him. Did I sign this? He didn't answer immediately. Then, Dad, you've been under a lot of stress. It's normal. Normal. That word again. I felt something shift inside me then. Not anger, not yet. Something colder, more precise. The realization that I was no longer part of the conversation. I was the subject of it. And subjects don't get to decide how their stories end. Not unless they take the pen back. They didn't throw me out all at once. That would have required honesty. Instead, they adjusted the temperature slowly, the way you do with a frog in a pot. Though I suppose at 70, I should have recognized the heat sooner. It began with schedules. Dad, we need a bit more structure, Lisa said on August 14th, standing in the kitchen with her arms folded. The kids have routines. We all do. Routines. I had lived by routines before she learned how to tie her shoes. What kind of structure? I asked. Well, breakfast before 8. Showers before 10. Try to keep the common areas clear during the day. I already do that. Yes, but just be more mindful. Mindful. By September, the word changed. Independent. You should really think about being more independent, Dad, Daniel said one evening, not looking up for his phone. It's important at your age. At my age, I repeated. He nodded. We can't always be around. That was new. Up until then, they'd insisted I needed them. Now I was becoming inconvenient. The final conversation happened on September 2nd, 2024, exactly 1 year after they first said temporary. I remember the time, 6:18 p.m. Dinner was on the table, chicken overcooked, dry. The kind of meal you make when you're distracted or irritated. No one was really eating. Lisa cleared her throat. Dad, we need to talk. Of course we did. Daniel set his fork down with exaggerated care, like he was preparing for something delicate. We've been thinking, he began, and it might be better if you had your own space. My own space, I said. Yes, Lisa nodded quickly. Something smaller, more manageable. With what money? I asked. Silence. Then Daniel sighed like I was being difficult on purpose. Dad, come on. You know the situation. I don't, I said. Explain it to me. Another look between them. That look again. Always that look. The investments are tied up right now, Lisa said carefully. Liquidity is complicated. Complicated, I repeated. But it's temporary, Daniel added. We just need time. Time. And in the meantime, I asked. Lisa shifted in her chair. You have the car. The sentence landed quietly. Too quietly. My car, I said. It's reliable, she continued quickly. You've always liked driving. This could be an adjustment period. An adjustment period. I looked at them, really looked this time. At Lisa's polished nails tapping nervously against the table. At Daniel's jaw tightening just slightly. the way it used to when he was caught lying as a teenager. And suddenly, everything felt very clear. You want me to live in my car, I said. No, don't put it like that, Lisa protested. It's just for a little while. How long? No answer. How long, Lisa? A few weeks, she said finally. Daniel nodded. Maybe a couple of months, until things stabilize. Stabilize. I let out a small laugh. Not loud, not dramatic, just enough. All right, I said. They both blinked. All right, Daniel repeated. Yes, I nodded. I'll go. Relief. Immediate. Visible. Ugly. Lisa exhaled. Daniel leaned back in his chair. See? This is what I mean, he said. When we communicate, things work. Communicate. I stood up slowly. My knees protested, but I ignored them. I'll pack tonight, I said. No rush, Lisa added quickly. Take a few days. I won't need a few days. I packed in 3 hours. 2 suitcases. 1 box. Margaret's photo went in the front seat. At 9:47 p.m., I walked out of the house. No one followed me. No one said goodbye. The porch light flickered as I stepped into the night. For a moment, I stood there, keys in my hand, looking back at the house. Not my house. Not anymore. I got into the car, closed the door, and sat in silence. Then I started the engine. Funny thing about engines, they don't hesitate. They either start or they don't. That night, mine started on the first try. I suppose that's more than I can say for my children. You would think that losing everything at 70 would break a man. It doesn't. It simplifies him. When you live in a car, your world shrinks to what you can see, touch, and count. There's no room for illusions, and certainly no room for denial. Every dollar matters. Every receipt matters. And eventually, every inconsistency starts to itch. It began on January 12th, 2025. Cold morning, 28 degrees. I remember because my hands were stiff as I held my phone outside a Bank of America branch on Jefferson. They opened at 9. I was there at 8:40. Old habits. I went inside as soon as the doors unlocked, the smell of cheap carpet and burnt coffee hitting me like something from another life. Good morning, the teller said. Young, polite, uninterested. I need a full statement, I told her. Last 12 months. All accounts. She typed, clicked, printed. Paper slid across the counter with a soft, indifferent sound. Anything else? No, I said. This will be enough. It wasn't enough. It was too much. I sat in my car afterward, engine off. Papers spread across the passenger seat, like evidence at a crime scene. $300,000, March 18th. I knew that one. Then smaller movements. $12,500, $8,200, $19,000. Recurring, quiet, consistent. But that wasn't what made my hands tighten. It was the transfers. Large ones. April 2nd, $75,000. May 27th, $180,000. June 11th, $52,000. All labeled the same way. Investment allocation. Allocation. A neat word. Clean. Harmless. Except I didn't remember authorizing any of it. I pulled up the account details. Routing numbers. Destinations. One of them I recognized immediately, ending in 4431. The same account. The one I had sent the $87,000 to on September 2nd. Daniel's account. I stared at the numbers for a long time. Then I did something I hadn't done in months. I added, carefully, slowly, double-checking each figure. Total transferred, $694,000. I stopped there, not because I was finished, because I understood. The house, 43 years, paid off, sold for $745,000. After fees, $682,114.63. They hadn't invested my money. They had moved it into their accounts, their names, their control. And that loan, I reached for the folder I kept under the seat. Every document, every confirmation, every scrap of paper I had refused to throw away. The loan agreement, $180,000, dated May 27th, the same day as the transfer. My signature at the bottom. I looked at it again, this time not as a confused old man, as someone who had spent 40 years signing contracts, approving budgets, reviewing technical documents where one misplaced decimal could cost thousands. The signature was good, too good, perfect even, like it had been Practiced. I exhaled slowly. All right, I said to no one. The car was silent. Even the world outside seemed to pause for a moment, like it was waiting. I flipped through the statements again, and then I saw it. December 3rd, 2024. Incoming transfer. $912,000. My breath caught. Destination account. 4431. Daniel's account. Description. Property sale. Ridgeview Holdings, LLC. Ridgeview. That wasn't my street. Maple Ridge Drive. Close enough to be confusing. Far enough to be deliberate. I felt something settle into place. Cold. Precise. They hadn't just taken my money. They had used it. Bought something. Sold something. Flipped it. Turned my life into a transaction. $694,000 in. $912,000 out. Profit. $218,000. I leaned back in the driver's seat, the old leather creaking beneath me. For a moment, I closed my eyes, not in despair, in clarity, because now, finally, I wasn't guessing anymore. I knew, and knowledge at my age is a dangerous thing, especially when you have nothing left to lose. I didn't call them right away. That would have been emotional, loud, useless. Instead, I did what I had done my entire working life when something didn't add up. I prepared. January 14th, 2025, 9:10 a.m. Same bank, same branch. This time, I asked for more than statements. I need copies of all signed authorization documents tied to these transfers, I told the manager, including digital signatures. She looked at me differently than the teller had. Older, sharper. Of course, sir. It may take some time. I have time, I said. That wasn't entirely true, but it sounded right. By 11:35 m, I had a folder. Printed documents, signature logs, IP addresses, timestamps, details, small, precise, unforgiving details. May 27th, 2023, loan agreement. Signed digitally at 2:03 p.m. Device, iPhone 13. IP address. Registered to Lisa's home network. I don't own an iPhone. Haven't for years. I sat in the bank lobby, flipping through the pages slowly, methodically, like a man reviewing blueprints before demolition. No anger. Not yet. Just confirmation. At 12:22 p.m., I made the second call. Law offices of Green and Patel, a voice answered. My name is Richard Hale, I said. I believe my children have committed fraud. Silence on the other end. Then, can you come in today? I can be there in 20 minutes. The office smelled like polished wood and expensive decisions. Mr. Patel was younger than I expected, mid-40s, calm eyes. He didn't interrupt. I laid everything out, statements, transfers, the loan, the property sale, dates, amounts, names. When I finished, he leaned back slightly. How much total, he asked. $694,000 taken, I said. At least, and they turned it into over $900,000. He nodded once. And you did not authorize these transactions? I authorized one, I said. $300,000. The rest, I tapped the folder. No, he picked up the loan document, studied the signature. This will be straightforward, he said. Straightforward? I repeated. Yes, he replied calmly. They used your funds under false pretenses, forged authorization, and benefited financially. That's civil fraud, possibly criminal. Criminal? The word landed heavier than I expected. They're my children, I said. Mr. Patel met my eyes. And you're their victim. Simple. Clean. True. I nodded slowly. What happens next? I asked. He closed the folder. Next, we make it official. February 3rd, 2025. Exactly 2 years after the house money hit my account. Interesting symmetry. Lisa had invited people over that evening. I knew because I'd seen the social media post. Her smiling face caption. Big things coming. Grateful for family and new opportunities. Family. I parked across the street at 6:47 p.m. Same car. Same seat. Different man. The house was lit up. Laughter spilled through the windows. Glasses clinked. Celebration. I walked up the driveway slowly, folder under my arm. No hesitation this time. I knocked. Lisa opened the door mid-laugh and froze. Dad. Behind her, Daniel turned, a drink in his hand. Conversation softened, then stopped. Timing matters. Evening, I said. What are you doing here? Lisa asked, voice tight. I thought I'd join the celebration. Daniel stepped forward. Now's not a good time. It's the perfect time, I said. I stepped inside. No one stopped me. I set the folder down on the kitchen counter. The same counter where they once showed me charts and promises. $694,000, I said, loud enough for the room. Silence fell clean and sharp. What are you talking about? Lisa snapped. April 2nd, May 27th, June 11th, I continued. Should I keep going? Daniel's face changed. Not confusion. Recognition. Dad, we can explain. Oh, I know, I said, raising a hand. You already did. I opened the folder, pulled out the loan agreement, held it up. My signature, I said, from a phone I don't own, on a network I don't use. A murmur rippled through the room. Sit down, Dad. Daniel said, voice low. You're making a scene. I looked at him. Really looked. No, I said quietly. You did. I placed the final document on the counter. The transfer. $912,000. Property sale, I said. Ridgeview Holdings. Lisa's hand trembled slightly. This is insane, she whispered. No, I replied. This is documented. I reached into my coat pocket and pulled out a single envelope. Set it down between us. What is that? Daniel asked. Court summons, I said. Dated. Filed. Official. The room held its breath. And just so we're clear, I added, my voice steady now, sharper than it had been in years. This is only the civil part. No one spoke. No one moved. For the first time in a very long while, they were the ones who didn't know what to say. The lawsuit was filed on February 3rd, 2025. By February 10th, they had lawyers. Expensive ones. Of course they did. People who steal nearly $700,000 tend to invest in good defense. I didn't attend the first hearing. Mr. Patel insisted. Let them speak first, he said. People like your children, they tend to over-explain when they feel cornered. He wasn't wrong. By the time I walked into the courtroom on March 18th, 2025, exactly 2 years after I had transferred the first $300,000, the narrative they had built was already cracking. They'll argue consent. Mr. Patel told me that morning that everything was agreed upon, that you were involved. I wasn't, I said. No, he replied calmly. Now we prove it. Courtrooms are quieter than people expect. Not silent, just controlled. Every word measured. Every movement observed. Lisa sat at the plaintiff's table. No, not plaintiff anymore. Defendant. That's the word. She looked smaller, somehow. Daniel looked angry. Anger is easier than fear. Their lawyer stood confident, rehearsed. Your Honor, this is a misunderstanding between family members. My clients acted in good faith, managing investments on behalf of their father. Without authorization, Mr. Patel interrupted. With implied authorization, the lawyer corrected smoothly. Implied. A convenient word. Then came the documents. One by one. Dates. Transfers. Signatures. And then the IP logs. Mr. Patel didn't rush. He never rushed. May 27, 2023, he said, holding up the loan agreement. Signed digitally from an iPhone 13. Registered to the home network of Lisa Carter. He turned slightly. Does Mr. Hale own an iPhone 13? No, I said. Has he ever? No. Silence. Not dramatic. Just heavy. The judge leaned forward slightly. Counsel, she said. Their lawyer adjusted his glasses. It's possible Mr. Hale used another device. Then perhaps, Mr. Patel cut in, we should examine the security footage from the bank on that date .2:03 p.m., correct? A pause. Longer this time. Because now it wasn't about interpretation. It was about proof. Lisa's composure broke first. We were helping him, she said suddenly, her voice sharp, too loud for the room. He didn't understand what he was doing with the money. Lisa, her lawyer warned. No, she continued, turning toward me. You would have lost everything anyway. We made it grow. We turned it into more. There it is, Mr. Patel said quietly, not to her, to the judge. Daniel slammed his hand on the table. We used it, yes, he snapped, but it was family money. It was going to be ours eventually anyway. The courtroom shifted, not physically, but you could feel it. That invisible line between justification and confession crossed. I didn't say anything. I didn't need to, because in that moment they told the truth, not the version they rehearsed. The real one. The judge wrote something down. Calm. Unmoved. Thank you, she said. The ruling came on April 9th, 2025. 36 pages. I read every one. Fraud. Unauthorized transfers. Financial exploitation. Judgment. Full restitution. $694,000. Plus profits derived from misuse. $218,000. Plus legal fees. Total. $947,000. Assets frozen. Property liens issued. Account seized. I sat in Mr. Patel's office as he summarized it, though I already knew. They'll appeal, I said. Maybe, he shrugged. But they won't win. I nodded. It wasn't victory, I felt. Not exactly. Something quieter. Cleaner. Like a debt finally acknowledged. As I stood to leave, Mr. Patel asked, "Where will you go now?" I thought about that. About the car. The parking lots. The cold mornings. Then I reached into my pocket and pulled out my phone. Opened my banking app. For the first time in a long time. The number looked different. Not because of the money. Because of what it represented. Somewhere appropriate, I said. And for the first time in years, that answer was entirely mine to give. I didn't celebrate. That might sound strange to someone younger. Someone who still believes justice comes with a sense of triumph. Maybe even joy. At 70, you learn that most victories arrive quietly. Like the end of a long, persistent pain. April 12th, 2025. 3 days after the ruling. I checked into a small extended stay hotel on the edge of town. Nothing fancy. Beige walls, a kitchenette with a humming refrigerator. A bed that was a little too firm. $89 a night. Clean sheets. Hot water. A door that locked. Luxury in its own way. The first night, I slept for 10 hours straight. No engine noise. No headlights sweeping across the windshield. No need to wake up every hour to make sure no one was tapping on the glass. Just silence. Real silence. In the morning, I made coffee using the small machine on the counter. Cheap grounds, bitter taste. But it filled the room with something warm, something human. I sat by the window and watched people go to work. Normal life. For the first time in months, I wasn't outside of it. I was simply adjacent. The money came in stages. Accounts unfrozen. Transfers reversed. Assets liquidated. By May 3rd, 2025, the full amount, $947,000, sat in a new account. Only my name this time. No shared access. No just in case. No helpful hands hovering over the controls. Just me. I stared at the number for a long time. Not with excitement. With recognition. This wasn't luck. It wasn't a windfall. It was my life returned. Not all of it, of course. Some things don't come back. Trust, for example. Time. Certain illusions. But enough. Enough to stand again. I found a small house in June. 2 bedrooms. Quiet street. Nothing impressive. $312,000. I paid in full. The realtor kept calling it a smart investment. I didn't correct her. To me, it was something simpler. A place where no one could tell me when to eat, when to sleep, or whether I was allowed to stay. I moved in on June 28th. Saturday. Warm day. Windows open. The smell of fresh paint and cut grass drifting through the rooms. I placed Margaret's photo on the kitchen counter first. Some habits stay. Others you leave behind. I bought a new chair. Solid wood. Comfortable. Something that would last. I sat in it that evening with a plate of food. Nothing special. Just eggs and toast. And listened to the quiet. Not empty. Not unfinished. Just mine. They tried to contact me once. A letter. No return address. But I recognized the handwriting. I didn't open it. Some conversations, and the moment the truth is spoken. They had their chance. More than one. I walked to the kitchen, opened a drawer, and placed the envelope inside without reading it. Closed it. Done. That night, I locked the door, turned off the lights, and stood for a moment in the darkness. 70 years old. I had built a life, lost it, and built something else from what remained. Smaller, stronger, honest. People think betrayal destroys you. It doesn't. It reveals what's left when everything unnecessary is stripped away. And sometimes what's left is enough. I went to bed without setting an alarm. For the first time in a very long while, there was nothing I needed to prove, no one I needed to convince, and nowhere I needed to go. Just a quiet house, a steady breath, and the simple, undeniable fact that I was no longer living in my car.